gunned down in a nightclub.
There's somebody laying down, they're shot.
A terrified city with a shooter on the loose.
We're all in panic mode. We're looking at each other like, what the heck is going on here?
Leaving a family devastated.
Speechless. Gun right there.
It was the worst moment of my life.
Police have no reliable witnesses.
As an experienced investigator, you kind of get the feeling of when someone's lying.
Until surveillance cameras expose a killer.
From that video, you can kind of determine when the actual shot is fired.
And reveal the truth behind a murder.
Where someone puts a gun on the side of his head and pulls the trigger. That's an execution.
Five-year-old car mechanic Josh Richards is working late, helping his friend Galen Sherbin with his new business venture.
My party buses were converted school buses. Called them party buses because you can legally drink on them while the sober driver is driving for you. Josh was like, hey, you don't worry about the buses side of things. I'm going to find them, I'm going to inspect them, I'm going to make sure that they're not going to break down on you. He's happy for me. He wanted to help me in any way he could.
Before the big launch, Galen's party bus needs to be roadworthy.
There was a bus inspection that needed to get done.
Hey, Galen, what's up?
He had to work at like 5 o'clock in the morning anyway, so he just did whatever he did, and I think it made him happy, actually, to help other people.
Josh worked a lot of hours, and he was running himself ragged. If he wasn't working, he was helping somebody else out.
He was always there for me. It didn't matter what time of night it was. Josh was, he was definitely the kindest person I've ever met.
With the bus ready to go, it's time for the big launch.
So the night of December 7th, it was actually Josh's idea. It was kind of my grand opening of the business.
God, man, it's freezing out here.
We decided, we're like, hey, let's just, put it open to the public, $10 a person, see how many people want to go from Green Bay to Appleton.
Wow. What? I know. This looks great. Sure.
Hey. Josh has invited his girlfriend, Brittany, to join them.
Josh's girlfriend, I've met her probably a handful of times. I really think it was one of those relationships where, how many times they break up, they'll still get back together.
Check this place out.
Well done.
Josh liked her, so I always thought if he was happy, then I was happy. A whole bunch of people showed up, so it definitely made me feel good. I didn't know what to expect. I was just ready for a good time.
All right, let's get the party started.
The party goes on long into the night. But as the bars begin to close, Galen heads back to the bus.
We noticed there's people started running, and then you could see people fleeing.
911, what's your emergency?
I need to report, there's a gunshot at Luna, downtown Appleton.
Okay.
There's somebody laying down, they're shot.
Did you see what the gun looked like?
No, not at all. We heard a loud pop. It sounded like a balloon, and everybody ran everywhere, went crazy. It just smelled like gunpowder. That's all it really smelled.
And that's when we noticed that there's a whole bunch of cops on the way, and, ambulance, all this kind of stuff, and we're looking at each other like, well, what the heck is going on here?
Hey, what the hell's going on, man? What the hell?
There was one person that came out and said somebody was shot, and they were on the bus. And I'm just like, okay, now I'm freaking out because I'm like, do you know who it is? But nobody really knew who it was. They were all in just panic mode and trying to get out of there. I had so many questions running through my mind, but I didn't have any answers yet. We were missing probably a good 15, 20 people, I would say, that were still in there.
With no sign of Josh or Brittany, Galen needs to know if they're okay.
Brittany, hey, it's Galen. Are you okay?
I was like, hey, what's going on? You know, and then she's the one who kind of told me that it was Josh. Speechless. Done right there.
Detective Neil Robbins from Appleton PD leads the investigation.
I was informed that an individual had been shot in the head and was transported to one of our local hospitals. It did not look good.
Hey, is he still alive?
I was given some information that it was a male individual who had been on a party bus from the Green Bay area. His name was Josh Richards. He was with his girlfriend, Brittany.
As he waits for witness statements, Detective Robbins assesses the crime scene.
We primarily focused on the foyer area. I could see where the first responders had treated Josh. There was a blood stain on the worn carpet, and this area had been walked through by hundreds of people that night.
It's too contaminated to offer many clues.
So we had a lot of work in front of us to try to figure out what exactly took place.
Have you got anything for me?
They did find one shell casing that was identified, photographed, and collected.
It's from a .25 caliber handgun.
This was not a typical bar fight that got out of control. This is an attempted homicide.
Anybody see the shooter?
Our information came from the security individuals at the bar that there was an argument between Josh Richards and a group of male Asians. Josh was not intoxicated, and the fight had not even risen to the point where the bouncer felt that he had to intervene. Shortly thereafter, he heard a gunshot. And then all the male Asians ran out of the door to the right. They didn't know who they were other than they were wearing white clothing.
Detective Robbins needs more to ID a shooter.
It looked immediately to the ceiling, and I could see that there was cameras. We needed to figure out why would someone want to shoot Josh Richards. That was the biggest question.
Need to view the footage from that camera.
And we were hoping that some of those answers would have been captured on video.
"25-year-old Josh Richards is fighting for his life in hospital after being shot at the Luna Lounge nightclub in Appleton, Wisconsin. Witnesses saw Josh arguing with a group of men moments before he was shot. Now, nightclub surveillance cameras could reveal the shooter's identity.
We knew the surveillance video inside of Luna was going to be crucial to helping us solve this incident.
The security manager loads up the camera covering the entrance to the club.
From that video, you can kind of determine when the actual shot is fired, because everybody's head in that camera turned their head sharply toward where Josh got shot.
But the shooting happens just out of view. As the footage plays on, a crowd of people run out of the nightclub.
Wind it back and slow it down.
3 men appear from the direction of the shooting.
3 individuals all matched somewhat what the bouncer had described, that they were wearing light clothing, and they then exit the Luna bar and went to the right.
But the footage doesn't provide a clear image of the men. Detectives hope a second camera overlooking the bar area will show them more. They cue it to just before the shooting, but everything appears normal and there's no sign of the suspects or Josh. They keep watching. Then at 1:49 a.m., less than 2 minutes before the shooting, Josh walks into view.
Josh emerges from the dance floor area. He's by himself. He's about 3/4 of the way through the bar, almost ready to exit into the foyer area, where he stops and he turns, and then you can see Brittany. Josh waits for her. He waits until she meets up with him, and then they turn and walk off of camera view. It does not appear like anybody immediately follows him.
With no sign of the suspects, detectives scroll back through the footage to see what happened earlier in the night. They start at 11 p.m. when Josh arrived at the club.
I continue to watch, try to establish a timeline of what all took place.
There he is.
He walked in with his girlfriend, Brittany, and they came in to that coat check.
Let's take a look at the video from inside the bar.
They trace every frame of Josh's night, hunting for clues.
He was not upset with anybody, was not arguing with anybody in that location as he walked in. As I watched the video around 11:23 p.m., Josh and Brittany walk arm in arm, hand in hand, from the dance floor back to that foyer area where the bathrooms are located. Josh gives Brittany a small kiss. There was nothing suspicious. He seemed to be getting along with Brittany.
Let it play on.
The couple then disappear from view until an hour later at 12:30 a.m. Josh returns, and investigators immediately notice a change.
He seems to be looking for somebody. He walks to his right and around the main bar, and again, it appears like he's looking for someone.
Then, something captures their attention.
As he's walking along the bar, he bumps into an individual.
Wind it back and slow it down.
You can see a hand come out. Josh just kind of flicks the hand away. It appears that Josh is somewhat agitated by this contact, as well as the fact that he's looking for someone that he can't find. The bar was not well lit. We weren't able to clearly pick out who this individual was or whose arm it was that Josh had this interaction with.
Neither Josh or Brittany are seen again until they exit the bar just before the shooting. On this second viewing, detectives can now see the difference in their behavior.
The interaction between Josh and Brittany was not the same as it was earlier. She seemed rushed, like she knew that Josh was waiting. My interpretation was that he was not happy with Brittany as they exited off camera. And it just appears that there's a dispute between the two of them.
With no sign of the three men seen running from the club, it appears only Josh's girlfriend can reveal what happened. 2 hours after the shooting, Josh's family arrive at the Theda Clark Medical Center.
I just couldn't believe that my son had been shot. I couldn't believe it, not Josh. Because he was just such a good person. Police detectives met us there and walked us to Josh's room, and we were able to see him. He had a vent tube in, keeping him alive. The feeling was awful. You know, he's my only son, and to see him lying in a hospital bed, it was the worst moment of my life.
Down the hallway, Detective Robus questions Brittany.
I know this is difficult. I need to ask you some questions.
Brittany had explained to us, Josh does not like her drinking, especially drinking that much alcohol. She was out on the dance floor. She wasn't sure, but she thought maybe Josh may have been upset because perhaps she had been dancing with somebody on the dance floor.
Did you see what happened when Josh was shot?
He got into an argument.
And it was during this argument that ultimately led to him being shot.
Do you know who shot Josh?
I didn't see, but there's this girl there. So I chased her.
She was yelling at this female saying that your friend shot my boyfriend.
Brittany says she can't remember anything else.
We were surprised at her lack of ability to provide any description of what the shooter looked like. It was partly due to the fact that she had been drinking and the fact that she was in shock.
Detective Robus needs to check Brittany's story on the surveillance cameras. He reloads the footage from the foyer. Sure enough, as the crowd run for the exit, Detective Robus sees Brittany lunge at someone in front of her.
There's Brittany. Rewind it and slow it down.
The footage confirms Brittany's story, but it doesn't show the female's face. And with so many people trying to escape, it's impossible to make out who her friend is.
As I continue to watch it, the officers arrive to take control of the scene. Then the ambulance arrives. The stretcher comes in.
A few minutes later, Josh is taken out to the ambulance.
It was the same camera angle, and I watched Josh go into the bar, a happy guy who was out that night, having a good time with his girlfriend, and then ends up to be such a tragic situation. It's just sad.
With no other leads, detectives focus in on the three men seen running from the scene.
If you look at the video in real time, it's very difficult to see because they run so fast out of the bar. I had to take the video and slow it down and actually go frame by frame. We saw that the first individual was wearing a baseball cap and a jacket. The second individual was wearing a baggier coat that was unzipped. And then the third individual was wearing a vest. I then noticed that the second individual had something in his hand.
Wait, what's that?
As he is running toward the front door, he raises his hand, and in one of the frames, you can see what appears to be what we describe the hammer of a gun. And then we're thinking, well, that's got to be the individual who shot Josh Richards.
It's been 24 hours since 25-year-old Josh Richards was shot in the Luna Lounge nightclub. Detectives have recovered surveillance footage of a suspect fleeing, possibly holding a gun. Now, Detective Robus must track where the man went next. He returns to the scene of the crime and canvasses the surrounding area for cameras.
The city of Appleton has several traffic cameras, specifically in our downtown area. I was hoping some of our cameras would have captured a male with the gun running from the Luna bar.
At the Theda Clark Medical Center, the prognosis doesn't look good.
The doctors told us that given the entry wound that Josh wouldn't recover from his injuries, that essentially there was nothing else that they could do to help him.
Seeing Josh there, even being this long, it's kind of like I'm still in the room. I had no idea what to say. I just went up there and held his hand and kind of just was like, wow, this is really happening.
I held his hand and I told him it was okay to go and not be in any pain. It was heartbreaking, but I knew Josh was no longer there with us. I knew he was with God and he was going to be safe.
The case is now escalated to a homicide.
We really need to find the person who executed Josh Richards. And that's really what it was, an execution where someone puts a gun on the side of his head and pulls the trigger.
Surveillance video from the traffic cameras is ready to view.
Okay, what have you got for me?
Following the shooting, the suspect ran out of the door and to the right, heading west, taking them towards Division Street. Detective Robus loads up the camera covering the street and cues the footage to the time of the shooting.
The traffic camera did capture and record the male with the gun running from the bar.
But he's not alone. The two other men from the nightclub are close behind.
Can't see their faces, they're too far away.
It did help us in identify or verify somewhat of the clothing that two of them were wearing. One person was wearing a vest, one person was wearing a beige jacket.
Okay, show me the next one.
As they ran north, their route of travel was captured by this camera and then head up in a northeast direction. There's also another camera that captured their route of travel.
As detectives track their route, something's wrong.
Wait, pause it there.
It appeared that they had discarded some clothing. They weren't wearing the same clothing, which we found very suspicious. Why would you discard your clothing if you were not involved at the incident? And we were able to tell that they went in the direction of where we have a homeless shelter and some dumpsters.
Officers are immediately dispatched to the dumpsters, just 3 blocks from the nightclub. They recover a red cap and a white vest.
From the video, we knew that one of the individuals was wearing a white vest, and one of the individuals was wearing a hat.
The hat appears to have the same distinct circular sticker on the bill.
We highly suspected that was clothing that was discarded by our suspects. At this point, we were thinking one of these 3, or if not all 3, are involved with the shooting and killing of Josh Richards.
Certain these men are responsible for Josh's murder, Detective Robus is desperate for a clear view of their faces. He returns to the camera covering the entrance at the Luna Lounge. The suspects' faces couldn't be seen going out, but they might see them coming in. He plays it from the start of the night. Finally, at 12:35 a.m., Detective Robus spots something familiar.
About an hour and 15 minutes before the shooting, I identified one of the individuals who was wearing the white vest enter Luna Bar. And then 50 minutes before the shooting takes place, I was able to identify the other 2 individuals.
The man who police suspect was carrying a gun, closely followed by the man wearing the distinctive red hat.
They were male Asians, so that all fit what the bouncer had described to us.
Now with a clear view of their faces, Detective Robus needs names. 3 days after the shooting, he catches a break. The female seen fighting with Brittany comes forward.
I'm investigating the homicide of Josh Richards in the Luna Lounge.
She identifies herself as 25-year-old Allison Blom.
She said that she was scared of what might happen to her. That's why she had not been in contact with the police.
I arrived with Chong Lee just after 1 a.m. and met his brother Paul and the others inside.
Allison admitted that she had been at Luna the night that Josh Richards got shot. She had gone there with a friend, Chong Lee.
Detective Robus confronts her about the fight with Brittany.
She stated that she was tackled by this girl and making a comment about your friend shot my boyfriend. She didn't know where that was all about, is what she told us.
Can you tell me anything about the shooting?
As she was leaving Luna, she did hear the shot. She said she didn't see who shot Josh Richards.
Detective Robus now shows Allison surveillance stills of the 3 suspects.
Allison was able to identify the person with the hat as Joe Thor, the person wearing the white vest as Fong Lee, and then the person wearing the jacket as Paul Lee. But she did confirm that when Josh was shot, that he was in an argument with Paul Lee.
The same man investigators believe was carrying a gun. All 3 men are immediately tracked down and brought in for questioning. Fong Lee tells officers he didn't see who shot Josh Richards. Joe Thor also says he didn't see the shooter, but did witness Paul Lee hitting the victim. After leaving the nightclub, Joe Thor then claims he went home and stayed there all night. Detective Robus now interviews Paul Lee.
He admits to the argument and throwing a punch at him, but he was very adamant in denying shooting Josh. We actually showed him a picture of what we thought was him with a handgun. And he made a comment that was not a gun, that it was an e-cigarette.
Detective Robus must find out if Paul Lee could be telling the truth.
We gave him the e-cigarette and put the jacket back on him and had him hold it similar to how the video had captured it. Creates doubt in your mind. It's very possible what Paul is telling us is true, that he did not have a gun, that he didn't shoot Josh. We continued to question him and interrogate him.
If it wasn't you, Paul, then who was it?
And at that point, he said that his brother Chong was the shooter.
Chong Lee, the same man that Allison said she arrived with that night.
The person we thought was the shooter was Paul Lee. Now we're switching gears to Chong Lee.
The men claimed they ran and dumped their clothing because they were scared they'd be blamed for the shooting.
They did not want to be identified and located and involved with this investigation.
Unsure what to believe, Detective Robus returns to the footage to see if he can verify Paul Lee's story.
There.
And to see if the killer has been hiding in plain sight. Three days after Josh Richards was gunned down in the Luna Lounge nightclub, their suspect, Paul Lee, is blaming his own brother, Chong, for the shooting. Armed with this new information, detectives go back to the surveillance footage.
Show me the footage of Allison arriving.
Sure.
I was able to identify Allison walk into the bar at about 1:12 a.m. with a male Asian.
That's Chong.
He was wearing a baseball-style jacket with a darker sleeves and a lighter-colored vest and a baseball hat.
Okay, switch to the bar camera.
He and Allison walk through the main bar together and they go down to the dance floor. I never saw him interact with Josh Richards. He never has any conversation with Josh. They never even pass each other.
They don't see anyone again until 1:49 a.m. when Josh and Brittany leave the bar.
A minute or a half a minute after Josh and Brittany enter, Allison comes up from the dance floor area and she walks into the main bar area.
Wait, there's Allison, right?
Shortly after that, Chong Li walks up. He doesn't have his hat on. He puts his hat on. He meets up with Allison. Allison is leading as Chong is following, and they then exit the camera view.
It's just 13 seconds before Josh is shot.
After we saw that footage, we knew that then Chong was in that immediate area where Josh had gotten shot.
Detective Robas switches to the camera overlooking the entrance. The three men exit first. Then a few seconds later, Chong follows.
As I watch the video, I see Chong. As he exits, he walks to the left, going to the east, where the other guys exited to the west. His clothing does not match what any of the initial witnesses described as someone wearing light clothing. He has a dark-colored jacket on, so he doesn't fit any of the initial description of what some of our main witnesses are describing as who the shooter was and where he went.
Investigators need to establish which brother pulled the trigger. Finding Chong Li is now their top priority. For Josh's loved ones, the time has come to say their final goodbyes.
I had known that Josh wanted to be an organ donor. Josh wanted to always give to others. So it only made sense that we would consent to the organ, eye, and tissue donation. That was Josh's character. I had decided that once the organ donation team came and we met them and talked about Josh, I let them know that Josh was in their hands. And so they took him. We left before they took him out of the room. I don't think I could have survived him getting wheeled out of that room.
While investigators try to track down Chong Li, Detective Robas turns his attention to the murder weapon. Shark's Bar, located just 4 blocks from the crime scene, has made a disturbing discovery.
Call us about some ammunition.
We recovered a total of 6 bullets in the bottom of a toilet, but we did not find the gun.
The rounds match the shell casing found at the crime scene.
Any cameras in here? Okay, thank you.
We were confident that the person who had shot Josh, we believed, went into Sharks shortly thereafter, and they tried to get rid of evidence by flushing it down the toilet.
But with no cameras, Detective Robas cannot ID who had the bullets. Fortunately, his luck is about to turn.
As we continued, 2 females had information for us that they wanted to share. They said the night of the shooting that they were actually in Sharks. They saw a male individual come into Sharks who matches the description of Chong Li. He went to the bathroom. He came out of the bathroom.
Do you remember what he was wearing that evening?
He had the same clothing on that he did when he left Luna. And now was pointing more in the direction of Chong Li because we knew he went in that direction. We knew that he exited and was heading in that direction towards Sharks. But we still had a lot of work to do.
Excuse me.
As investigators continue their search for Chong Li,
Rabas.
An anonymous tip has come through to the police department.
We had gotten information that Chong had possibly gone down to the Milwaukee area after the shooting and checked into a Hilton hotel.
We're on our way.
Detectives head to the Hilton Hotel in Milwaukee, 100 miles away from the crime scene.
Hey, do you know if Chong Li has checked in?
They confirmed that Chong Li had checked in there.
But he has already left.
We're gonna need footage from these cameras.
Detective Robus wants to confirm it was Chong Li who checked in. So they cue the footage to the time of his arrival. At 6:43 a.m., just 5 hours after the shooting, Chong Li walks into the lobby.
Can you pause this?
But he's not alone.
Look, there's Joe Thor, too. He's right there.
Joe Thor didn't go straight home like he told police.
The video was able to place Chong and Joe at the hotel within hours after the shooting.
Joe Thor is brought back in for questioning.
You've been holding that in me, Joe.
We confronted him with the information and the fact that he's on video at the Hilton. Joe then admits that Chong came over to his house after the shooting, that he and Chong went to Milwaukee. We questioned him as to why he even left with Chong Li, and Joe explained to us that he was scared of not doing what Chong wanted him to do. Joe said that during this car ride, Chong Li admitted to him that he had shot Josh Richards.
Detective Robus confronts Joe on why he lied in his first interview.
Part of it was his fear of Chong. He still wasn't sure what Chong was capable of based upon Chong shooting Josh.
Where is he, Joe?
Joe said that he wasn't sure where Chong was located at this time. And Joe explained to us that Joe thought that Chong wanted to leave the state, get out of the area, and be gone forever. So we had an urgency to find Chong before he fled the area, fled the state.
Four days after Josh Richards was murdered, detectives are trying to locate their prime suspect, Chong Li.
We had some information that he might be staying in at his mom's address. So we had officers doing surveillance on his mother's house. We had gotten information for the warrant, and we took Chong into custody.
Chong Li is taken back to Appleton Police Department, where detectives hope they will finally discover the truth about Josh Richards' murder.
He initially denied being at Luna when the shooting took place.
This from the cameras.
He then admits, okay, that he was there, but he doesn't know who the shooter was.
Where did you go right after the Luna Lounge?
He wasn't truthful. He said he went home. We know he didn't go home and that he had gone down to Milwaukee. And again, his response was that he went home. We told him that we have eyewitnesses that place him inside of Sharks, the pool hall. We said that his own brother, Paul Lee, had admitted to us that Chong was the shooter. We continued to confront him with the evidence that we had stacked up against him, including the witnesses, the video, the recovery of the ammunition. Chong continued to deny that he was the shooter in this case.
Even without a confession, investigators used the surveillance and witness testimonies to build an account of what they believe happened.
We know that Josh was upset with Brittany over some of what Brittany was doing that night. So as he exited, he was a little agitated. Someone in that group made a comment to him, and no one really even knows what the comment was, but it caused Josh to turn around. And because of who they were and how Josh was that night, there was an argument.
Settle down, dude. I'm here with my girl.
The argument went on for maybe a minute to 2 minutes, and during that argument, Paul Lee took a swing at Josh. We believe as Paul took that swing, that's when Chong Lee was exiting the main bar area and walking into that foyer area.
Relax. I'm here with my
Chong Lee saw that his brother Paul was in this argument with a big guy. But we believe that Chong made the decision that he was going to end the fight. He reached out his .25 caliber handgun, and literally he put it right next to Josh's ear, and he pulled the trigger. Someone who reacts that quickly to taking a life and then has no remorse about it. He's just an evil person.
On December 16th, 8 days after Josh was shot, Chong Lee is charged with first-degree intentional homicide. Chong Lee continues to protest his innocence, but with the overwhelming evidence against him, he is found guilty of first-degree homicide. On June 2nd, 2016, Chong Lee is sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of parole in 32 years. He continues to appeal his conviction. Joe Thor, Paul Lee, and Phong Lee did not participate in Josh's murder and face no criminal charges.
The surveillance footage inside of Luna was crucial. Without the video, this case either would have gone unsolved or would have taken a lot longer to get to the point where we did.
While Josh's family still struggle with his absence, they take comfort knowing part of him lives on.
Josh was a great person. He's definitely truly missed, but I really think that his effects are still around us even though he's not here.
Josh donated 7 organs to 7 different people. So it's just heartwarming to know that these people are still alive. And he helped over 100 people with his tissue donation. To know that somebody like Josh, who was so giving, still gave even after he died. I'm so proud of my son.